All right. Well, welcome, everyone. This is Abby Gooch with the Intuition to Income Global Summit. And today I have Cynthia Kersey on the line with Unstoppable, and she is just such an inspiration to me. I found her online and just instantly connected with her energy and the vibration that she brings to the planet in just such a powerful way. So I wanted her to share a little bit about what she's up to and just the mindset stuff on how we can all connect with our intuition and really make a really big impact on the world. So Cynthia, if you could just introduce yourself to our listeners and let us all know more about you and who you are and what you're up to.
Okay. All right. Well, I've written 2 books, Unstoppable and Unstoppable Women, and I'm now running the Unstoppable Foundation, in which our vision and mission is to ensure that every child gets access to an education. So, the concept of following your intuition has been, I think, an evolving process for me of really, really getting that the guidance is always there. I may not listen to it or especially in the beginning, but I'm certainly more aware now and really, tune into those impulses or, those messages that really do lead us in certain directions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I was just looking at a book by one of my teachers, Sonia Choquette, who was published in a magazine about listening to our higher guidance. Mm-hmm. And that's really what intuition is it's really being aware of that and also trusting it. I feel like often we get the hit, but we're not really sure what it is, and to really trust it takes a certain amount of faith and courage to really step forward.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I know, one of the biggest, things that I've wanted to do is to pursue working for my foundation full time. So I had this deep calling and this deep desire to give back and to make a difference, and yet the fear of how I would do that or how would I support myself or how would I make that work was louder than the calling. And just to kind of give you some background, I've always been involved in philanthropic endeavors from when my first book came out, Unstoppable. 18 months after my book came out, I had been married 20 years, and my husband and I separated and got a divorce. And it was a very challenging time for me, and I had called my mentor, who was the founder of Habitat for Humanity, and told him what had happened, and he said, when you have a great pain in your life, you need a greater purpose. And that was the beginning for me of really looking into what is that deeper purpose in my life. And an opportunity opened itself up. Millard had just gotten back from Nepal, and he said, why don't you build a house for a family in need? And I really, checked in, and I thought, how many houses would I need to build that would offset this great pain in my life? And the number 100, when I got to 100, I thought, that's it. And so that project, that year when I was grieving and healing, and I was out there speaking about being unstoppable, I would share this project of building 100 homes for 100 families in need. And that experience changed my life. And so, I raised the money. I took people over the next year. We helped build the first 3 of the 100 homes, and that shifted the trajectory of my life. And the next big shift was when I had been invited to this Rural African Women Conference, and I knew one person going. I had a very busy schedule. This is back in 2007, and I get this invitation, and there was a part of me that felt like I should do this, and it wasn't logical. It didn't make any sense. The only thing I knew about that conference was that women from East Africa were going to come together and share their story. That's all I knew. and yet I felt like I should go. So I rearranged my schedule. I got my ticket. I flew over there, and then I was, greeted by 40 women from North America. We get on this bus, and we proceed to drive for 2 days, with it felt like they had no suspension, and the roads over there are just like, mini Grand Canyons, with the crevices and just, really not optimal driving situation. And, there was a part of me, I was getting tired, and it was hot, and I was uncomfortable, and I thought, I knew I was called there for a reason, and I said, God, please help me get over my little self so I don't miss why I was brought here. And when we finally got to this campus, we're greeted by 400 women from East Africa who some had walked days with babies on their back to meet with us. And these women didn't really have the luxury of, leaving. It's not like us, we're going on a trip for a couple of days. They are keeping their families alive. They're fetching water. They're fetching firewood. They're doing everything they can to meet the survival needs of their families. And yet they were there meeting with us. And as I heard their stories, I was so inspired by how empowered they were. I was actually shocked because, they're asking questions like, how do we preserve our food in times of drought? Like, they have no electricity. Imagine the only food that you have, it's just going to last, for what, a day or two if you don't have a refrigeration or electricity. And they were there, how do we cook using solar versus, they put charcoal and they burn charcoal in their huts, and it's bad for their lungs, and their children are sick, and how do they deal with malaria, and how do they deal with getting the family clean water? And I mean, as I was hearing their challenges, I was completely overwhelmed with what they had to deal with in their life. And I realized these were some of the most unstoppable women I'd ever met. And as I met them, I had this feeling that I was in heaven. And it was like when everything stood still, nothing was missing, and there were 2 women specifically who I connected with, that I just felt like I fell in love. And I really got why I was there. And I promised them, when I was leaving, that I would do something to help them. And I came back and I started doing some research and, very quickly got that education is really the key. When you have an education, you're able to take care of your family, and you're able to lift yourselves out of just this basic survival. You can get a job, or you can run a business, or you can, you know how to exchange money and write your name, and just basic things that make all the difference in the world. And so, I ended up having a birthday because I thought, how am I going to help them? I didn't know how I would help them. All I knew is I had this intention. And again, this is where things happen in our lives, and we have to be aware. And what had happened was, I had this intention that I would do something. I didn't know what I could do. I was at my friend's house, Debbie Ford's house, over Thanksgiving, and she was telling me about her son, Bo, for his bar mitzvah. Instead of getting gifts, he encouraged people to donate money to build a school in Uganda. And when she was talking to me about this, I literally sat up on the couch. I was kind of laying there, just kind of relaxing or talking. I sat up, and I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn my birthday. I had my 50th birthday coming up, and I wasn't, all that excited about turning 50, in all honesty. I kind of was, I was feeling kind of lethargic about it, and kind of even a little depressed. Whatever. It was just kind of, I had this thing about turning 50. But when I thought about having this birthday party where we could raise money to build a school, that inspired me. And so even though I'd never done a party, I'd never done like this little event before, this inspiration of turning this moment in my life into something that was bigger than me was very inspiring. And that night, I had about 100 people there. We raised $80,000, and it helped to fund 2 schools in Uganda. And that was the next trajectory for me. It's kind of like, as I'm saying this, it's like, you say yes to those whispers, and then bigger messages kind of come forward, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's so amazing. I love that it started at such a basic level and then it expanded, and I feel like I know it so starts about, like you say, getting over fear or letting go of the little version of us and really seeing how expansive we are, and when we step into that, how it's of greater service to the world.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think, it's constant. I've certainly experienced that in my life where, so I really stepped more into this mission and this vision of bringing an education to more children. And I did it while I was running my business, and that felt hugely safe and secure because I was making money and through my business. But there was this calling of doing it, full time. And as that thought of doing this full time, there was this much louder voice that said, what are you talking about? You're single. How would you support yourself? Who's going to pay you to ask them to give money? Who's going to pay you to teach people how to give? And I was very resistant, even though my deepest heart was to do this full time. The practical or the fearful side of me was much louder. And I remember I had just gotten back from a big trip about 3 years ago from Kenya, and I came home so inspired by all of the work that we're doing, and that voice was there again, and it's like, this is time. Why don't you do this full time? And again, I just literally willed that voice to be quiet. It's like, don't even think about it. This is not the time. The economy wasn't that good at that point, and so and when I came back, I had to sell another coaching program, right? And so I'm willing myself. I'm sitting there at the computer. I'm willing myself to just write this marketing copy, and I'm dreading it. I'm not in flow. Talk about not listening to your intuition. I'm just completely pushing it away. And as I was typing, I had this brand new Mac computer, and the whole thing, everything I wrote, crashed. It all went away. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And so I went to bed, and I couldn't sleep, and I got up early, and I went to the gym. And while I was working out, I thought, I will just let that voice be. The voice, that the feeling, the idea came to my mind. And I thought, just while I'm working out, I'm not going to argue with it. I'm just going to let it be. And as I was working out, something started shifting within me, and I thought, wow, maybe it is the right time. And again, I just gave it space, instead of arguing with it. I just gave it space. And when I came home, I was a member of this mastermind, and we did the call, and afterwards, Marcia Wieder is part of my mastermind then, and I called her and I said, I think it's time. And she's like, of course it's time, Of course everybody else knows it for you but you. Right. And, I called a couple of friends and came up with a strategy, and the strategy wasn't that sophisticated. It was you call 3 people a day and you ask them, because I had this campaign that I wanted to do to raise money in this thing called Give a Little, Get a Lot. And so the idea was I mastermind with my friends, and basically, it was determined I'd call 3 people a day and either ask them for support, to donate a product, or to donate money to help, build these schools. And I'm telling you, Abby, miracles happened. Finally, when I decided and I said yes, it was like, Nick Ortner, I'd called him asking him to donate a product for the launch, And as we were talking about it, I told him I was looking for a sponsor, and he said, well, we might want a sponsor. And by the time I was done with the call, he committed to donating $50,000 to sponsor the event and run the entire online campaign for free.
Oh, wow.
And when he said that to me, it was like I felt like, okay, I am taken care of. You know, if I will just continue to open my heart and say yes and have the courage, you know, to really take that step, I will be provided for. And that's exactly what's happened. I mean, you know, I'm working full-time in my foundation, and, you know, as I continue to grow into this and as I continue to open my heart and really say yes to that deeper calling, it's just astounding that from that place, that's the only place miracles can really happen, because we're giving them the space to happen.
I love that, Cynthia. I just so appreciate you being here. My heart is just, I feel the depth, and I'm actually going through something in my life right now that's taken me to the core, and I feel that pain. So hearing you say, you know, it's really about that pain actually can make your purpose even bigger. And I just really want people to hear that there's nothing against you, there's nothing wrong, that it's actually taking you into these deeper places in yourself, you know, that it's calling forth something so much greater than you could see with your little self, but that your higher self and your intuition knows.
Right. It's like, it's like actually, you know, the world, the universe, you know, everything is conspiring in our highest good. And it's like, as you're going through this, it's just having that shift. Doesn't it feel different? It's like, oh, this is actually in service. And I think as reference points, you can look back on your life and look at times where you've had a lot of pain or you've had the biggest challenges. I mean, for me, going through my divorce was absolutely the greatest blessing that could have ever happened, you know, and it's like I'm now living my purpose. I've been married. My 2-year anniversary was 2 days ago to the man I've waited for truly my whole life. You know, and again, it's like holding for that. It's, you know, it takes courage to stand in your longing, you know, and to not settle. That takes a lot of courage.
It does. Amen to that, sister.
It does. It totally does. And it's kind of like, you know, even, you know, I honestly, you know, I hoped, I longed for, and then I just got to the point where, you know, if it's meant to be, it'll happen, and if it's not, you know, I live a, you know, great, meaningful life, but I'm not going to settle. And, you know, it's just like when we have the courage to do that, and I know whatever you're going through right now, you know, it's calling you forward in a more deeper, more profound way.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for feeling that. And, you know, it's funny, I wanted to mention, I was talking with Rochelle, who I worked really closely with. I know she's a part of your team. And I have seen visions since I was a kid of building these schools, and I didn't even know that's exactly what you did. I just connected with you, and she's like, Abby, like, that's what we do. And I'm like, you know, the synchronicity and things, you know, like, it's not an effort. But I wanted to share that with you before I forgot, because that's just, I feel like energy brings everything together. You know, like as an intuitive, it's about clearing the energy so we can align up with that. So, you know, so I'm in so much gratitude for that. And I'm wondering, you know, what's the step that you use, or the series of steps to connect with your intuition? I experience it as my heart and then a gut feeling, but everybody kind of does it their own way. So I'm curious, you know, what's your take? How do you connect with that highest place?
Well, I think, you know, the first thing is we have to get quiet, because they're on the surface, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of, you know, fear and, you know, whatever. You know, whatever the mind is. The mind has all sorts of things. But I think it's like what you said. It is just this gut. It's like, you know, it's like, does this resonate? And what I've learned through my life is when I said yes to things that I thought I should say yes to because I thought it would move me forward, or, I thought it would be in my best interest. And now what I realized is that, if it's not in everybody's highest good, it's not right. Right? Do you know what I'm saying? But I just remember years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I met this, really big marketing person, and energetically, we were not a match. I did not resonate with him. I didn't even really like him. I didn't dislike him, but I didn't really like being around him. But, he's supposed to be this big guru, and I just felt like, even though I didn't end up working with him, but I just felt like, it was like I was giving away a part of myself, like it wasn't right. We just know it. We feel it. It's kind of like when you're feeling expansive, when you're in the flow, right? Versus if you're not in the flow, now what I do is I just say, okay, I'm not flowing right now, or, things are kind of obstacles. I just look at that, and I realize it's all feedback. It's feedback. And by looking at it that way, I don't judge it as, I'm doing the wrong thing. It's just simply feedback. And if we listen to it and let that guide us, you make a different decision, and then you feel how, you look and you go, how does that feel? And so it's funny because I used to be a lot more mental about decisions, and now I realize, of course there is the conscious thinking around it, but it's like, does this feel good? Am I in flow? I had somebody who I really, really wanted to partner with who is just fantastic, and it's just not happened. And you know what? It's like you do everything that you can, and when it doesn't happen, it's just not meant to be, at least for right now.
Right.
And don't make it mean anything. It doesn't mean anything because we don't see the bigger picture.
Are you like seeing right into my soul right now or something? I feel like you just channeled that for me. I was talking about Sonia. She's actually been a colleague of mine, Sonia Toquette. I had her on the line for another show, and she did the same thing. I'm like, you guys, we're just all connected. Thank you. I'm just sinking into that because for me, I have taken things personal, and I know I'm not alone. I absolutely know that. And I think it's a lesson for many people, even in the last few days that I've come into contact with, is it's not personal, but it's either in alignment or not for now. Right. And I love what you said about the bigger picture for everyone. Like sometimes we can't see it. Like mine's actually a personal relationship I'm working with, and it's been so slow, and he's like, you can't even see the bigger picture. And I'm like, you're right, I can't. And so it's like I know I'm being led by a higher place. That's that right. my little mind, Cynthia, is pissed off. It's like, what? But my heart is it's forcing it to go deeper, which then is taking me into my gut of this deep commitment and purpose I've had since I was a child. And so if we can all have that courage to go to dive deep, and it sucks, it's hard. I called my mom, she's one of my best friends. I'm like, Mom, this sucks. She's like, honey, it's your transformation. I was like, man, but it's there, right? She's like, go into the cocoon and the butterflies coming out. It's so simple, but it's the willingness, I've had a lot of ease in my life, but I also am realizing that sometimes it's challenging, and to push ourselves beyond the point of fear, beyond the point of doubt, beyond the point of limitation, and just say yes and take that step forward in faith. And very similar to you, as I've been expanding into this global vision, it's been like, I got to trust that, my giving heart is going to be supported. And Rochelle and I were talking about that, just connecting on that level of when your vision is bigger than you, you have got to trust that you're going to be taken care of.
That's
and
right.
You may not know how.
That's right.
And just like those people that walked through Africa days to see you, they knew why they were walking.
Right.
Their intuition, their gut moved them to that place of connection. So I have so much faith in that. And it reminds me when I left college, it's like my body literally moved me out and was like, go start your practice. Before I even had a semester of school, I'm like, okay. So you just got to trust it. And it doesn't make sense. You're like, wow, I'm crazy, but you're not.
Right.
You're saying, right. So
Yeah.
very cool. So let's see, Cynthia, I wanted to touch a little bit on just the energy of abundance and prosperity, both internally, like we're feeling in our hearts, and then how that can translate, how you've been able to do that monetarily. The show really is focused on intuition to income. So people can get that they can trust their intuition to create that income. And then from that place, I really know we make a bigger impact because we have the resources.
Absolutely.
So can you just kind of share a little bit from your heart on that?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a continuation of what I was talking about, right? Because really being willing to step into the foundation and knowing I am taken care of, and I have been taken care of. And this is how I make my living. And, you know, there's been a lot for me of this whole missionary consciousness, you know, where, you know, you think, oh, I shouldn't make any money, or, you know, but it's really shifted for me because I realize if my needs aren't taken care of, I can't be powerful. I would be double-minded. It's like I'm always thinking of, well, how am I going to do this, or how am I going to pay that, or how am I going to save this, or so what I've really gotten is that I'm most powerful when I am being provided for. And really, you know, it's like, you know, the people that I've attracted, you know, that are a lot smarter than I am, you know, figuring out how to really put this together, and the level of support that I have brought into the foundation has been really amazing. And at the same time, you know, I think so much of it, Abby, has just been, you know, putting one foot in front of the other and saying, I'm willing. You know, I didn't know how to do it, but as I said yes, and then I had to be willing to be provided for. And the truth is, I've had people, you know, I've had so many people that have encouraged me, you know, to take care of my needs financially, and I've kind of been kicking and screaming. I just remember years and years and years ago when I was a speaker, and Bob Proctor, like every year he would be saying, "What are you charging? You should double your fees. You should," you know, it was like, no, nobody's going to hire me. You know, it's just this whole thing. It's crazy.
Yeah,
and I think there's a line. I mean, there's a line that I feel comfortable, and so that's my own paradigm, but it is what it is. So it's like, okay,
exactly.
I feel comfortable with this, and what I've learned too, Abby, is like I have to go with my own intuition. At the end of the day, I have to live with myself. So I take a lot of feedback. I take a lot of feedback from people, but if it doesn't resonate, I can't. I go with where I am, and I'm, you know, continuing to expand. But I absolutely am taken care of, and from that place, I can do more work. So it's like it's very hard. I remember when I was first writing my book, and I so had this desire to make a difference. And Millard was my mentor, you know, the founder of Habitat for Humanity, and such an amazing man. And he said, "Cynthia, you can't help somebody else until you help yourself." It's like you know, here I was, you know, I quit my job, cashed in my entire life savings, downsized my life to write my first book, Unstoppable. And I almost felt a desperation about when I was going to be able to give back. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yep, I do.
Desperation, like, I hope I live long enough that I'm actually going to be able to give back. And so what he encouraged me is things don't always have to be financial. So I kind of looked for other ways that I could be of service that didn't include money, because I didn't have any back then. And you know, in the vision of, you know, if you're in the middle of the ocean, you can't say, you know, or when you're flying, they say put the mask over your, you know, your own mouth first before you do it with a child. And so I really got that. And, you know, now I'm to the point where I don't feel the desperation because I'm living in my service. So, you know, just knowing that unless you're taken care of, you can't help somebody else. When we're going to Kenya next week, you know, even though they're like extraordinary beings, they focus on survival. You know, it's like the communities we're working with, we're bringing in clean water. They have no clean water. They have no health care.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine the schools are, you know, the kids are going to school under a tree or they're crumbling buildings. It's hard to be thinking about other things when your basic survival needs aren't being met. So, and once that happens, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just I feel like that's the fear. You know, I feel like when you hit scarcity and lack that fear, and it can take over, you know, and just acknowledging that, you know, and I'm not sure I have the answer, but I just feel that's what it is, and then moving to that place of support, you know, and so wherever that is, you know, like you're supporting these people, and then however we're showing up, to be open to receive however it comes in.
You have to.
And it's often not monetarily. Sorry, I just want to share. It's often not monetarily when you're working at the energetic level, because it's such high frequency. It's beyond the physical, and then it's eventually coming down to materialize. But, you know, relationships are built on love, right? And so that's the frequency. And I'm actually writing my second book on the universal language of love, and that's what it is. It's this constant giving and receiving from the heart where you get each other, right?
That's right. That's right. You know, it's interesting. It reminds me, when I first started this, Mary Morrissey's a very dear friend, and she said, Cynthia, you need to go to 10 people, and you need to ask them to donate X amount of money to support you to do this. And she's always been, you know, it's like, come on, you know, you can't do this unless you're taken care of financially. And so I kind of looked at her, and she said, okay, ask me for my credit card. You know, ask me here. Let me write down my credit card for you. Like, like, it's the hardest thing to ask. I've had so many, and my friends have been really generous. I've had a very hard time asking. But let me tell you the difference is when I finally got, well, first off, they're always saying, you know, are you kidding? I'm happy to support you. Look at the work you're doing. I'm a part of this work. This makes me feel great. And last year when I took Sandy Gallagher and Fabienne Fredrickson, they joined us on our trip to Kenya. And, you know, they're huge supporters of our work. And my intention is that when they were there, they would feel like those children were their children. And when I got to see the communities we're supporting and they're, you know, supporting through their eyes, I got the gift, the rich gift I was giving them by giving them a chance to support this work. I like totally got it. It really shifted for me, because I used to think, well, how can I say thank you? You know, how can I? And Mary's like, you don't have to buy somebody something. Are you kidding? You know, like, what can I buy them, or what can I do for them? She's like, no. You know, let them feel what they're doing. You know, how and they're not giving it to me. They're giving it to the work, right? So it's shifting it within our own consciousness.
Yeah, it really is. And I think it's like realizing that it's realizing that we are the gift too. Like really seeing ourselves in the beauty and the love and the soul light that we are, without, you know, having these attachments of, oh, I need to look like this before I can ask for money, or be perfect, or whatever the story is, right? It's like to see ourselves clearly as you're the gift and you're meant to share, and that person's a gift and they're meant to share.
Absolutely. And we are enough wherever we are. Wherever we are enough. You know, we don't have to be, one thing I've gotten is that, you know, so many times, you know, when I wrote my book, I didn't know how to do it, or when I started speaking, it took so much courage and, you know, to put yourself out there, and, you know, I could have all sorts of stories, and still do, you know, and I have to just kind of see them for what they are and bless them. But we are enough. We are enough to be completely standing in the calling that we've been called to, and the resources, the support, the knowledge, the wisdom, it all comes as we continue to say yes. And we're enough for this moment to do what we're called to do.
Oh, it's so beautifully said. I love that. I love that. Oh, Yeah, we're enough. Just step forward and trust that the next step will be there holding you.
That's right.
So beautiful. Well, is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with, Cynthia? I know that I think that we can connect with you through your website so people can donate to your cause. Let us know what we can do.
Oh, great. Thank you. Well, the site is unstoppablefoundation.org. And, we have, our vision is to see every child get access to an education. That's what we're committed to. That's what I'm committed to. And so we have all sorts of ways that people can participate. They can use their birthday as a fundraiser. I know a lot of people are inspired by the fact I use my birthday, and so we've created an easy platform where you don't even you can have a virtual event where you can ask your friends instead of, giving money or donating, giving you a gift, or maybe both, right? They donate money to help educate a child. So just go to the site. As an individual, you can be a part of our mission, or if you have a group, like your group, people can come together and they sponsor a whole village. And what would be great, Abby, with your vision is, sometime, to come and to see the work that we're doing, and and somehow, we could work together where your dream could come true. That would be, talk about how, life works, and it's,
right?
coming together.
I know.